Hey, welcome back for some more X-Files. Today we're going to look at Our Town, episode 24 of Season 2. Our Town debuted May 12, 1995 on the Fox network and follows Mulder and Scully as they investigate a small town where the employees of the local Cho Chicken all seem to be behaving rather oddly. The episode begins in Dudley, Arkansas during the dead of night. George Kearns and a young girl Paula are up to no good, but he makes sure everyone knows that she's no longer in high school.
It's not like you're still in high school.
Paula lures George out for a little fun, but I think he should be a little bit more concerned with whatever health condition he seems to be suffering from, and I don't know, maybe his wife?
Because you have to catch me first.
Oh, come on now. You don't want me to chase after you, do you?
Ooh, looks like they're gonna have a fun game of tag. But this is what you get for chasing after a girl just barely out of high school. George loses sight of the young girl when people with torches start surrounding him. After being killed by the Tiki Mask from Crash Bandicoot, Mulder and Scully are given the case of George Kearns' disappearance. Scully is actually defending Mulder and his work, which is a rarity, because she thinks they're mocking him with this simple disappearance. But Mulder thinks the higher-ups are idiots, and that there may actually be more to the case than what even they believe.
Oh, they may think they are, but on the night that George Kearns disappeared, a woman on the I-10 saw a strange fire in an adjacent field.
This foxfire is apparently the spirits of massacred Native Americans that take people away, and despite Scully calling hogwash on the whole thing, there was a massive burn mark left behind where a woman claimed that she saw it. This photo, along with a videotape of a man who was found in Dudley, Arkansas, who had completely lost his marbles after claiming he saw this foxfire. Well, this is all the proof Mulder needs to check it out for himself.
What's this, Mulder?
That's witch's peg. Staking it into the ground is supposed to ward off evil spirits.
The agents meet with Sheriff Tom Aarons, and he claims the witch's peg is nothing more than a local superstition. And the burn mark? Well, that was just illegal garbage burning and nothing more. So let's just ignore that.
So you don't believe it's foxfire?
Sir, foxfire is nothing more than a ghost story about swamp gas.
Hey now, swamp gas is Scully's go-to. Don't be stealing her thing. George Kearns' disappearance doesn't seem all that odd to the sheriff. George apparently was known for stepping out on his wife, so it wouldn't be a shock if he just ran away with some young girl. The agents decide to speak to his wife because I'm sure she has something to say about the whole situation.
So you're fairly certain that he left you for somebody else?
George left me a long time ago. Right around the time I turned 40.
I get the feeling George may be some kind of a broomer, if you catch my drift. The day prior to his disappearance, George was about to file a report to have Cho Chicken shut down for health violations, so it's quite the coincidence that he just suddenly disappeared.
Come on, Paula, let's go!
Paula looks to be a little worse for wear, but I think leading a man into the woods to be murdered will do that to you. That, or she just doesn't want to start her work shift, and who could blame her? They arrive at Cho Chicken, where they meet the floor manager Jess Harold to ask him about the report George Kearns was about to turn in. Nothing like a little head. So while Paula is losing her mind, Jess gives the agents a tour, showing how clean they keep it and that George was the issue. He also shows them a handy grinder where all the pieces of the chicken go that they can't use. Sure would be a handy tool if one was trying to, I don't know, get rid of a body. Also, I don't think they'd be allowed to walk around a plant that's processing chicken without the proper gear.
Let him go. We're federal agents.
Paula really goes off the deep end and pulls a knife on Jess. Scully tries to calm the situation, but before she can, the sheriff shoots Paula before she can do any harm. You think they still use that goop after Paula's body has been in it? Paula had been suffering from constant headaches, and even after a brain scan, everything came back normal, so they thought nothing of it. The same thing also happened to George Kearns before he disappeared.
Well, I think an autopsy on Paula Gray would clarify things.
You'd have to speak with Mr. Chaco.
You know, for someone that is so into chicken, he really is piss poor at taking care of them. I mean, look at the size of that pen, and where's the coop?
You want to conduct an autopsy on my granddaughter. Why?
Oh, I don't know, so they can find out why she lost her mind and pulled a knife on a guy? Mr. Chaco seems more concerned with the agents just focusing on George's disappearance, and never mind what happened to his granddaughter. I wonder if he's hiding some horrible secret. Surprisingly though, he does give the agents permission to perform the autopsy.
It's a specimen from Paula Gray's brain. She suffered from a rare degenerative disorder called Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease.
Turns out she was afflicted with some disease that would have caused dementia and seizures, and Scully says that she would have been dead in a matter of months. Mulder also has something interesting because apparently Paula was born in 1948, making her 47 years old.
The odds that Paula Gray and George Kearns had the same disease are practically non-existent.
So it's an impossibility that both Paula and George could have the disease, unless there was some other way that she got it. The agents nearly hit a truck carrying chickens head on, and I always feel so bad for the chickens. Those delicious, delicious chickens. Scully speaks with the doctor again and finds out the driver of this truck also had the same symptoms. So that makes 3 people in a small town with the same disease. A disease that can't be transmitted from person to person, mind you.
I just came up with a sick theory, Mulder.
Ooh, listen.
I love his little excited ooh. He's not used to Scully coming up with something so morbid. So remember that grinder from earlier? Yeah, Scully thinks they put George's body in there, ground him up, and fed him to the chickens. Thus, anyone who ate the chickens would become infected as well. But Mulder thinks if that were the case, they'd be seeing cases all over the country as the chicken is shipped countrywide. Mulder asks the sheriff if they can have the river dragged with a net because he thinks something could be in there. The sheriff, however, seems a bit hesitant to do that until Mulder says he can get his men to do it, which changes the sheriff's tune right quick. So far, Scully has been able to put together 9 skeletons, which has to be the most difficult jigsaw anyone has ever attempted. And lo and behold, they found George Kearns, or what's left of him anyways. Some of the skeletons Scully believes are between 20 and 30 years old, so some funny business has definitely been going on in old Dudley. Another strange thing is the ends of the bones all seem to be smoothed out.
We brought up quite a few remains at the river this afternoon, and George's were among them. I'm sorry. Listen, I'm really sorry.
Why is she so upset? The man didn't give a shit about her and was constantly cheating. The Doc and Jess have a little huddle because they seem to know what's going on, almost like they've had a hand in it. Jess is going to have a word with Mr. Chaco because he thinks Chaco will listen to him. Remember when Scully theorized that the chicken may be infected? Well, here she is with a giant fried bucket of it.
In the last 50 years, 87 people have disappeared near here. And judging from the forensic evidence, I'd say the same person or persons was responsible.
Mulder now thinks that the people of Dudley have been eating a little bit more than just chicken. Mulder notes the ends of the bones have been polished, as if they were cooked in a pot, something that was also found as evidence with regards to the Anasazi tribe. And this is true. In 1926, F.H.H. Roberts excavated the remains of 8 incomplete adult Anasazi skeletons and found the ends of the bones to be smooth, a result of what is called pot polishing. Evidence of pot polish and cannibalism was also found on bones recovered from the 1845 Sir John Franklin expedition, which set sail from England in 1845 but never returned.
Well, then Paula Gray may have contracted Creutzfeldt-Jakob by eating George Kearns.
And that could begin to explain her youthful appearance.
Mulder thinks that maybe they've been eating people as a way to stay young. Various cultures over the years have held the belief that consuming human flesh can make one younger. After all this cannibal talk though, I think Scully may have lost her appetite. Jess speaks with Mr. Chaco, and they're definitely all involved with what's going on. Not just them though, but also Mrs. Kearns, who's starting to crack with the whole thing.
No. Once we start turning on ourselves, we're no better than the animals.
Jess is worried Mrs. Kearns is going to slip, but Mr. Chaco tries to convince him she's no concern, and that it's the FBI that are the real issue. Mrs. Kearns calls the agents because she's terrified for her life and thinks Mr. Chaco is going to try and kill her. Mulder sends Scully to Mrs. Kearns' home while he goes to arrest Mr. Chaco. Well, that happened real quick. Even though Mrs. Kearns was killed with an axe, there appears to be no sign of an attack. I've seen enough crime documentaries to know there would at least be a blood splatter where the attack took place. Mulder arrives to apprehend Mr. Chaco, and he has quite the interesting collection. Who doesn't have an armoire full of creepy taxidermied heads? Alright, I think Mulder definitely has a reason for arrest now. Scully better watch herself though, because Chaco was in the house with her. Oh, god damn it, Scully. Ooh, it looks like they're having a potluck though.
I warned you! I said not to touch her! Doris Kearns was one of us!
They actually just ate Mrs. Kearns despite Mr. Chaco telling them not to. I guess Chaco's no longer in charge anymore and it's now him that's on the menu. The weird thing though is they blame Chaco for bringing in an outsider, George Kearns, who made them all sick. But if he didn't bring in an outsider, then who were they eating prior? Because Chaco was all about the community and not turning on one another, but they were definitely eating people for some time now, so if not outsiders and not their own, then who? So after Chaco gets the axe, it's now Scully's turn. She could easily just slip her head out of that thing. It sure is lucky that Mulder just happened to drive by and notice the fire. You know, Mulder isn't known for shooting people, but I guess if you're holding an axe over Scully's head, you're fair game. Seriously though, Scully, just pull your goddamn head out. Well gang, let's see who the mystery tiki ghoul of Cho Chicken is. It's the sheriff! The following morning, the USDA has the plant shut down until further notice, while 27 of its workers have all come down with the same disease, so arrest them all for murder, right?
Naval records also show that Walter Chaco was born in 1902, making him 93 years old at the time of his death.
Our Town is a fun episode. I don't honestly have a ton to say about it. I like the idea that a small community has become cannibals in order to extend their life after Chaco learned the practices from a cannibal tribe back in the 1940s. The whole Foxfire thing though goes out the window real quick and is basically just used as an excuse to get the agents out into the field so they can begin the real investigation. Our Town has a 7.8 on IMDb, just like the previous episode, and just like the previous episode, I'm also giving it a 7. Critics weren't as kind to Our Town, giving it fairly mixed reviews. And one user on IMDb really seemed to take offense with the show's portrayal of small towns. I noticed one of the other reviews here says that there's always something creepy about small towns. When you watch too much crap like this, sure, TV episodes like this are meant to ingrain the viewer with ideas that tight-knit rural communities where everybody knows each other are bad. Be honest with yourself. Has there ever been a town where cannibalism has actually happened like this? You know, I love small towns. I want to live in a small town, but I think this person just took this episode way too personally. Our Town was written by Frank Spotnet and was the first Monster of the Week episode that he had written up to that point. And since it was his first, he wanted to write a story about the most sick and vile thing he could possibly think of, that being cannibalism taking place at a chicken processing plant. Several things helped inspire Frank when he wrote the episode. First, an article he read about salamander cannibalism and how it makes the animals sick. And a film called Bad Day at Black Rock about a small town that harbors a dark secret. When he was researching the Anasazi for the season 2 finale, he found an article about bones discovered in Chaco Canyon, New Mexico that appeared to have been boiled, which he took and used for this episode along with the name Chaco. Frank had a hard time finding books on cannibalism, but did name some of the characters after actual cannibals. But as hard as I tried, I couldn't find any of these supposed cannibals, so I can't confirm if that is true or not. Frank was happy with the overall product, and has gone on to appreciate it even more as time has passed. By the time this episode came around to being produced, director Rob Bowman was already physically and mentally exhausted, as this season would end up being the longest in the show's history with 25 episodes. This caused a lack of interest on Rob's part, and led to the episode taking longer than normal to complete. On top of that, he had difficulty shooting the end scene with the mask, because if he didn't shoot it right, it would just end up looking silly. Though I could find nothing to back this up, and it's purely speculation on my part, but I believe this episode to be inspired by the mad cow disease outbreak that took place during the early to mid 90s in the UK. In 1994, the disease began to spread to the human population, giving those affected symptoms similar to Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease. The disease mostly affected younger people and was caused by eating the tainted beef. The first known death took place on May 21st, 1995, just 9 days after the release of this episode. In total, 178 people would become infected and die of the disease. Again, it could all just be coincidence, but I think this real-life event may have played a part in the episode's construction. Also, a fun little tidbit is the worker at the end feeding the chickens is named C. Little, as in Chicken Little, a European folktale about a little chicken that believes the world is coming to an end and says the phrase, "the sky is falling." Gabrielle Miller played the role of Paula Gray. She's a Canadian-born actress best known for her role in the Canadian TV series Corner Gas as Lacey Burrows. She will make another appearance in the X-Files Season 3 episode Syzygy. I don't know, this episode right here on your screen. Gary Grubbs played the role of Sheriff Tom Aarons. He's a pretty notable character actor, appearing in over 170 films and TV shows with roles still to this day. His best known role may be Attorney Al Ozer in the Oliver Stone film JFK. Timothy Weber played Jess Harold. As a Canadian-born actor, Timothy has a whole host of credits to his name, mostly Canadian films and TV shows, like 82 episodes of North of 60 and 35 episodes of Arctic Air. He also managed to be in some bigger productions like The Exorcist TV series and War for the Planet of the Apes. Walter Chaco was played by John Milford. Born in 1927, John Milford amassed over 500 roles in various films and TV shows, most of the time cast as a villain in westerns. His last appearance would be in the video game Command & Conquer Red Alert Remastered as Albert Einstein. He passed away August 14, 2000 at the age of 72. Our Town is a good episode with an interesting premise. I definitely recommend this one if you haven't seen it. However, if you're watching this video, then you most likely already have. Next is the Season 2 finale, where Mulder becomes the target of the Defense Department after receiving an encrypted tape on alien life in the episode Anasazi. So what does everyone think of Our Town? Let me know down in the comments because I'd love hearing from everyone. I hope you're doing well and please stay spooky.
Friday, when Mulder and Scully investigate a mysterious disappearance,
They found bones in the river.
they uncover a small town's terrifying secret,
Do you think these people were eaten?
where murder is just the beginning.
No!
The X-Files, a brand new episode, Friday.